Hi guys, welcome back. Or if you're new, welcome for the first time. This is part 5 of a series, so if you have not watched the other parts, I do recommend you go back and watch those first. I am making a Halloween advent calendar. The first video basically shows you how to put the structure together and then how to decorate the first side. And then the rest of these videos are just how I decorated each side. And I just wanted to be able to show you what kind of products and techniques that I used to accomplish that. Obviously, this was meant to be done before Halloween, but I did get a late start, and then a bunch of things just kept getting in the way of finishing the videos. One of which is that I did come down with bronchitis. I am feeling better now, but I do have another week of prednisone to take, which is causing headaches, so that's kind of fun. And then in the midst of trying to get this last part finished as soon as possible, my cat got sick and had to go to the vet and have surgery. She has bladder stones that are they were really large. They had to be surgically removed. The kind of stones that she has, I guess, are ones that won't dissolve like with medications and things like that. So we had to pay for the surgery, which cost us over $3,000, which was not great, especially with the holidays coming. And then the vet did say that they are the kind that will probably continue to come back and be a lifelong issue. So we're going to have to change her to a special prescription type food that's a lot more expensive. And that's going to be forever that she's going to have to be on that food, because that should help keep the stones from coming back, or at least stop them from coming back so quickly. So yeah, it's kind of stinks, but we'll do whatever we have to do to make her have a happy, healthy life. Here's a little bit of a clip if you want to see how she's doing.
Oh, it's my poor baby. Oh, no, poor little girl. They shaved you all up. And no poor little Abby's got no fur on her belly, no fur on her arm. Oh, look at your poor naked belly. You got no fur. Aww. And what's wrong with you, mister? What are you doing?
All right, so with that, I can't talk. With that, I am going to stop yapping and let you see the final conclusion to this epic saga of an advent calendar. All right, without further dudes, let's go waste some talent. I'm going to start off by attaching some feet to the bottom. These feet I got on Amazon, and I do have to cut them a little bit to make sure they don't stick over the openings and block the drawers from opening. So I'm using a jeweler's saw for that. I don't recommend doing that at home. It is not very safe. I was lucky that I didn't cut myself. But anyway, I got it done, and then I'm using E6000 before I screw them down, just to make sure they definitely aren't ever going to go anywhere. So I just put some pilot holes first with a little pointy tool, and then I'll screw in the screws that came with the feet. And then I'm going to use a chisel to smooth down those edges that I cut, just to make sure there's no pointy bits sticking out. And then I like everything to look finished, so I'm just going to go over the bottom with another coat of black just to touch up all the paint mess that I made. And I'll do a black coat on the top of the box as well. Now I'm going to create some signs for each side of the top. So this is some Tim Holtz ephemera that I'm just aging with my Distress inks. For the background, I'm using some packaging from some Tim Holtz ephemera, and I'm just going to glue that to a couple of these oval frames using Mod Podge. Those frames came from Michaels many years ago. They were purple and pink, and I dyed them. I painted them black. Here I'm using a rub-on transfer from the Dollar Tree to make a number 1, and then I'm painting a number 3 sticker from the Dollar Tree black so that I can make a 13 for the other side, because I only had one piece of ephemera that had the 13 on it. And then these little stickers are Tim Holtz. They're from the Halloween sticker pack. So I did a brilliant thing, and the camera was on when I thought it was off. So when I hit record, I was actually hitting turn camera off. So I didn't film any of this part here. So this is a crate from Dollar Tree on the top of the calendar. I painted it black and glued it down to the center. I found the center by drawing a crisscross line from corner to corner. As you can see there, you can see the pencil lines. And then I used some E6000 and hot glue, and I stuck those frames on the side and I clipped them in place just to make sure that they wouldn't go anywhere while they were drying. I cut 2 squares out of chipboard and I'm putting a base coat of chalk paint on them. And then I'm taking this cobblestone path. It comes from Dollar Tree. It's part of their like little Christmas village set. You get a roll of stone, like they have a cobblestone one and a brick one. So I bought the cobblestone one and I'm using this to make a brick wall. So I'm cutting out a square from the center that's the size of that little chipboard square that I made. So it'll go together like this. And then I'm gonna glue this pin onto here. That's gonna be like a gravestone. So I have this little angel pin and I just used E6000 to stick that down. And then for the other side, I'm using this necklace that was an old necklace that was broken. I'm gonna base coat that black and then, or excuse me, with the chalk paint, and then I'm gonna paint all of it with a metallic. So this is called Fancy Black. It's Arteza. So it's black paint with like a gold reflect to it. So it looks like a really deep, dark bronze color. And then to attach this to the crate, I'm using E6000 and making a lovely mess. And I did put weight on it while it was drying so it would lay flat. And you can see here, this is it attached with my little gravestone stuck in the center. And I'm just using various acrylic paints, get a base coat onto the cobblestones. You want to paint a few of the stones in different shades to make it look a little more realistic. Once that layer is dry, I will then do a wash over the top. I always say I use the Black Magic Craft wash recipe, so if you want to learn how to make your own wash at home, you can look up his recipe, or you can certainly buy store-bought washes, which I actually do use one of those in just a second. And then you just blot off the excess with a paper towel. So this wash is by Testors. It's in the color olive green, and I got it for clearance for $2 at Michael's a while back, and I haven't used it really yet, so I've decided I was going to try it out here. This is also Testors, but this is actually a wood stain, so it's not really meant for what I'm using it for, but it works as well. I just wanted to have different tones of grime and wear so that these look as old as possible. After all the washes have dried, I'm now going over the top with some white chalk paint, and I'm just highlighting all of that stone texture. Next, I'm going to make some flower urns. I'm using these tips that you use on E6000 to give them a fine tip. They just screw on. I got a pack of them on Amazon, and I'm cutting it off to the size that I need using my X-Acto miter saw and my X-Acto knife. And I held on to that with some pliers while I did this just to make sure I don't cut myself. And I'll just sand down the rough edge a little bit with some sandpaper. And then I did a base coat of chalk paint because that sticks well to plastic, and then another coat of acrylic paint, so because that's a little more permanent. To make floral arrangements, I'm using these miniature flowers from Hobby Lobby. They're by the Paper Studio. And this pick is from Dollar Tree. It's a fern pick. I'm using a little bit of its stem as my base to make my arrangements on. So I'm going to hot glue these little flowers on there. They have a little bit of wire sticking out of the end, so I'm just sticking that wire into the hot glue and twisting it around a little bit so that it's nice and secure. And I do 3 rosebuds for each flower arrangement. As my leaves, I'm using a little bit of the fern pieces that I cut off, and I'm just attaching those with hot glue. And then I'm going to fill my urn with some hot glue and stick the pick down inside there. And I felt like it needed to be filled out a little more, so I'm taking some scrap greenery from something from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just using that to fill it in a little bit. These are also paper company. Was that what it was? The same flowers as the other one, same brand, but they just don't have the wire on the bottom. And I'm using this pick from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue the flowers directly onto it with hot glue. And then I'm taking some of the leaves from that same pick and I'm just gluing those on here and there where I think they look good. Again, we're going to fill the base with some glue and stick our pick down into that. I added one more leaf, and then I'm taking that scrap greenery again to fill in the gaps where I think it's needed. And then to attach these to the wall, I'm using E6000 and hot glue. And then I decided I wanted this gravestone to be copper, so I'm putting a base coat on there and I'll set that aside to dry for now. This is static grass that I got on Amazon. I'm going to mix it with this Elmer's glue all to make a paste. And I'm going to put that all over so it looks like moss or algae is growing everywhere. It looks a little funny right now because the glue is still white, but once it dries, it will be clear and you'll just see the green and it will look pretty good. Those moss balls I'm gluing down here are from Dollar Tree. And these mushrooms I made myself out of epoxy sculpt, and then I painted them with some different shades of chalk paint. And now I'm going to add some miniature pumpkins, which I think are actually some kind of berry. They were in a pack with pine cones from Dollar Tree that were scented like, I think, pumpkin spice or something for fall. And so I'm going to have those as my pumpkins. I do realize that the pumpkins and mushrooms are way out of scale from each other, but this is a fantasy piece, so I figured it's acceptable to have giant mushrooms in my fantasy world. And to glue all the mushrooms and pumpkins down, I am using, again, the combo of hot glue and E6000. And I do apologize for my camera not focusing very well. I decided that my base shouldn't be black, it should look more organic, so I did go over it with a brown. And then I'm taking more of the static grass and glue mixture, and I'm using that to add some more green to the scene so it looks more organic and overgrown. And it also will help my mushrooms and pumpkins to stick better because it is glue. Plus it also kind of makes the seam between the base and the decorations a little more realistic and organic versus just a flat surface. And then I mixed the same Elmer's glue all with some sand from the Dollar Tree. I forgot to show that on camera, but it's just some brown sand I got at Dollar Tree. And I'm using that to make some texture on the ground that'll be more like dirt or sand versus just a flat ground. And then I decided the copper should be aged, so I'm going over it with this green color so that it will look like patina later on. And I'll do that over the urns as well. And then I'm going to do some watered down version of this paint and let it drip so that it looks like it rusted into the ground from years of rain and whatnot. I am going over the plastic leaves with a watered down green paint because I want them to look less plasticky, and I also wanted to have some variation of color. So this is a darker shade of green than the static grass. Now I'm taking a brown wash, which is the same recipe as my black wash, just brown, and I'm using that to age the flowers so that they look maybe dried or old, like they've been sitting on the grave for a long time. And I'll also use that brown wash on the stones as well. And I'm just dry brushing on some more copper to bring back the metal tone to that gravestone. I'm using the same brown wash to go over the mushrooms. That's going to help with the way that they look right now. Because of the chalk paint, they look very dry. And when you add the wash over it, it kind of makes it look more realistic and gives it some more shading. And I'm also doing it to the pumpkins as well.
Hey, Goldfinger.
I'm using some gold metallic paint to paint in the halo behind the saint's head here. And then after my sand has dried, I'm going over it with the brown wash and some of the black wash so that it looks more old and kind of blends in better. The sand that I used was really light, so I needed to darken it up a little bit. And then I decided that I knew I was going to do grass here, but I decided the base should be green versus brown. So I just went over the top with some different shades of green paint. And now to attach my static grass, I'm spreading some Elmer's glue all onto the places where I want the grass to stick. And I'm just sprinkling the static grass right into the glue. And I don't have a static grass machine, so you can just leave it as is, just sprinkling it on looks good. But I wanted to try what I saw online, which is the balloon trick. So you blow up a balloon and you rub it on your arm, and I guess that like hairs on your arm help make static. And then you run the balloon over the grass, and it sort of works the same way as a static grass applicator. Obviously, it's probably not as good, but it still works. And then once that was dry, I went back over the grass with some brown and black washes as well to give different tones to the grass, so it wasn't just all one very bright green. Actually, the glue's not completely dry yet, it's still a little white, but it was dry enough to put the wash on there. And then I'm also putting the wash over, my gravestone and things like that as well. And then once that was all dry, the static grass, I did spray the top with a mixture of watered down glue to help it stay on. I just didn't show that on camera. And then as a last step for these boxes and signs, I'm adding metallic paints to them. So the background, I used the fancy black. And then for the edges of the frame, I used copper on one side and gold on the other. And then here on the angel, I'm using a metallic gold rub-on to make it stand out a little better. And then once everything's dry, I go through and seal in all the paint with some Mod Podge and a sponge, just to make sure that my paint doesn't chip off. And I do that on the mushrooms and the pumpkins as well. As the very last step, I'm taking UV resin and I'm going to fill in my frames so that it looks like there's glass in there. And to get the bubbles out, I just poked at it with a toothpick and kind of pushed them off to the side. And when they get to the edge, they pop. And you just set that with your UV lamp. So I wanted to pop in real quick to show you that I made a couple of changes to some of the sides that were already finished. And well, they're not really changes, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that I did it because, in case you wanted to do something like it. But I decided to add some UV resin to some areas because I thought it would help them stand out a little better. So you can't really see from this angle, but this eye has some on it. The clock had some added to it. And on this side, I added it here. And then on this bug to make him a little shinier. And then on here. So the main reason I did that is these little areas like this, like they're very fragile. So I thought having UV resin here would help kind of hold them in better. So that would help support those. I also added it to the scales to make them shiny, and to the numbers again to try to help them stand out a little better. And on this side, again, my main reason for doing it was here to make sure that these are very strong and sturdy. So you can see they don't wiggle anymore. Plus I thought it made the heart look a little more realistic because now it's shiny. Then I added little drops of it to the roses so it kind of looks like dewdrops, again on the numbers so they could stand out a little. And I put a coat over these photographs so it sort of looks like they're under glass. So there it is, finally all done. I am very proud of myself. It took a lot of work, but it came out even better than what I had envisioned it to in my head, so I'm very excited about it. I will have to use it for next year for Halloween, obviously, but hey, it's done and it's beautiful, so yay. I hope that you enjoyed this and got some good ideas. I enjoyed making it. Comment below, let me know what your favorite part was or what you might have done differently or any recommendations that you have for me for techniques or things to try in the future. I'm hoping that now that things are settling down around here at home, I will be able to get more videos out. My regular full-time job is kind of in a slower part of the season right now, so I should have less stress at work, which will be helpful. And then I'm getting better from the bronchitis, so that's good as well. So I do have some plans to do some Christmassy type videos. And then I also need to make some Christmas gifts for some family members. So I will be showing you the gifts that I make for people over the next month as well. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope that you guys have some time to waste some talent yourselves as well. And I would really appreciate if you subscribed and like and comment and all that good stuff. It helps me out. And I hope that you're all doing well and avoiding things like bronchitis and unplanned cat surgeries. And yeah, that's about it. So stay happy, healthy, and safe, and be excellent to each other. And I will see you again soon. Bye.